One of the keys is figuring out what you're good at and sticking with that. I tend to always want to expand and look at different opportunities, which is good. But you have to be willing to go, okay, things are tight right now. We're gonna rein in. We're just gonna accept that in this period we're not gonna make a lot of money. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna survive. You have to have things written out. That's a huge thing. Write things out. That's one of the things that gets you through those periods. Is then you can go back, you can look at your notebooks, you can look at your plans. Okay, man, it really sucks right now, but we accomplished this and we accomplished this and we accomplished this, and we're trending in the right direction.
Welcome to another episode of DM Shop Talk, or Digital Marketing Shop Talk. As always, I'm Mike Mahaffey here with Valorous Circle, who is presenting this podcast today. And we have another special guest with me today that we get to have a good conversation with. And that is my friend, Justin Reynolds, who is a big-time staff member of Greenville Cabinets here in West Michigan. And we're going to have a great conversation today, being able to hear who Justin is and hear about his story, and maybe get some insights about what it's like to be in a family business. Because I know, Justin, you and I can relate to that. I know Greenville Cabinets is a family business, and that's actually my background as well. I come from, my father owns a basement foundation business in East Michigan. So I know we can relate a lot of that too. But before we get deep dive into this, I think a great way to start this off would be just to hear a little bit about you and your background, Justin, and how you kind of grew up and where you're at today with Greenville Cabinets.
All right. Yeah, my name's Justin, and in 2006, my father and I founded, at that time, Greenville Cabinet Distributing. It was a little bit different company, but that's a part of the story. As far as my background, my father's a carpenter, grew up doing carpentry. He had a workshop back in the backyard, just made little furniture pieces and things like that, and would sell those just to kind of supplement his income. So, my earliest memories are in a workshop, in a job site. When I was 5, 6, I'd go to sites with him and he'd pay me like 10 cents per post or something, and I'd like screw the heads on post. And so, I technically got paid to do carpentry when I was like 6, and followed that all the way through, worked at various different places, worked for a wood finishing company. My father ran like a division there, and then I started working in the shop when I was 12, which is probably questionable legally, but I was happy to have the money. So yeah, I was working summers full time since a kid, and that actually transitioned very well into what we do now, because we learn a ton about coatings and different methods and equipments and everything like that. Then transitioned to, my father started managing home improvement store, and I worked there. It was mostly kitchen and bath place, so learned a lot about kitchens and baths. That started, would have been like 16, something like that. And kind of through this whole time, my dad and I talked about starting our own business. It was always an idea on the back of our head. And I went off to college to work on my business administration degree. And I liked college a little too much, had a little bit too much fun, and got into a little bit of academic trouble there. And around the same time, my dad called me and said, I know you're kind of struggling with school, and he wasn't really happy where he was at. He said, we've talked about trying to start this business for a long time. Let's give it a shot. That was So yeah, we kind of started there. Greenville Cabinet Distributing, the idea was, at that time, the ready-to-assemble knockdown cabinets that were being imported from China were really new. And for spec home developments, all the subdivisions that were going up in the early mid 2000s. It's kind of a perfect product. And we bought several containers worth of those, set up in a little building just about a mile from where we grew up. And that we had a good little business for a couple years. And I thought, man, this was easy. Everybody talks about, but 2008 happened. And, it was part of that bubble where these opportunities that were kind of too good to be true. In hindsight, my dad never got as excited about it as I did. I think, being more experienced at that point, he understood that this might be a limited thing. So our business disappeared overnight, and which was scary. There's not a trust fund or anything. My parents worked really hard and then paid off their home at that point. I think my dad was 50 when he started the business, and they put up their paid off home as collateral. So, there was really a do or die thing. But I mean, when you kind of put your back to the wall, you have no choice but to keep going. So Greenville Cabinet Distributing disappeared. We had, however, worked with a lot of people and made some good contacts and established some relationships. And, when you put positive effort out there, it returns itself. And we managed to transition that into just doing random carpentry, doing electrical, plumbing, whatever anybody would pay us to do. We just did for a couple years. It was pretty lean during that time, but around 2000, let's say 2010, someone just randomly asked us to make them a kitchen. And we had, made furniture pieces and things like this kind of our whole life, just sort of as a hobby, never really, for whatever reason, thought about doing it as a living. And so we made them a kitchen, and it went really well, and they really liked it. And we thought, hey, that was kind of fun, and we made some money. So we started looking around, and, there's points where you just, eventually you kind of get lucky. And we kind of got lucky that a gentleman who was had a custom cabinet business, was just deciding to retire. And we essentially were able to buy all of his equipment for next to nothing, which, looking back on it, was a pretty basic set of equipment. But at the time it was, it was a big deal. So we got that and started making cabinets. Hired a good friend of mine to start helping us out. He's turned into one of the best finishers in West Michigan. It's been really cool. I'll put him up against anybody. So yeah, we started making cabinets around 2010. It really started going well. People really liked our product, and we didn't have a complicated business plan. We didn't, we were just going to do the best job we possibly could with every job that we did. And yeah, it worked out well. We just built reputation, and, it started out really local. I mean, really local, like a mile from our shop. And, friends and family for the first couple of years, people that my folks know through the church, or I knew through, I played sports in Greenville. So, but then just kept expanding. And in 2017, we moved out of our old facility, built a new facility in the industrial park that's about 4 times the size of our original building. Got our equipment now. Our shop is awesome. We got CNC equipped. We got automatic edge banders and Altendorfs and all the cool things. My dad told me the other day, he said, sometimes I walk out here and I look around and I still can't believe, like, this is my wood shop, from the hut we had in the backyard. It's pretty cool. So yeah, we just kept going. Eventually established relationships with builders. That was a huge thing. I love builders. I'm a carpenter first. My dad's a carpenter first. And, we like to say that we're carpenters making things for carpenters. Meaning, we know the stuff that's really annoying. Like, hey, this cabinet's too wide to get through a door, so now we got to take a window out and put it through that. This pantry won't stand up in this room. Okay, well, we'll make it without a toe kick and send the box separate, and just simple things that make the installer's life easier. I like it when things are easy. So yeah, built up reputation with builders, started expanding more and more, got to the point where I think Greenville itself was something like 8% of our annual sales. So that's, I really like being part of the community, but that was pretty cool that, even outside of our community, a lot of people get to know us. I've had the experience recently of just randomly running into like a kitchen designer at Home Depot, carpenter in a job site that I had no connection to. I didn't know at all. And he goes, "Oh, you're Greenville Cabinet." I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "Oh, I've heard great things about you guys." And that was just really neat, yeah. So yeah, the name's getting out there, and we make a really nice product. If you're just be totally frank, if you're looking for like your budget, rental cabinet, we may be able to guide you in the right direction, but that's not really what we do. We make really nice stuff. It is, however, a great value. Like I look at some of what people charge for furniture pieces and things, and I know that at a certain point you just kind of paying for the image, but I don't like that a lot. So, we try and really price our cabinets fairly, and you really get what you pay for with us. And right now I'd put our cabinet up against any cabinet being made in the Midwest. So yeah, that's a long-winded story of where we came from.
No, I appreciate it because now we were able to see the full picture. And honestly, your story from growing up and doing odds and jobs with your father to going off to school and then starting what was it, Greenville Cabinet Distributions,
Yeah.
all those those ups and downs.
Yeah.
Those stories are feel a lot what a lot of other people in the trades can follow suit, because I know a lot of people, they'll follow their parents are doing. And so
Yeah.
like, even though obviously it comes with that as a lot of ups and downs, I feel like a lot of people listening to this can relate to that story. So I really appreciate you take the time to share that, because that was a beautiful picture of everything. And I'm sure it's still a very broad window through what it's been like.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a lot more details. It definitely helps paint a picture that
Oh yeah.
people can relate to.
Yeah. No, the ups and downs is, you said it perfect. It's, I was in the trades. I imagine every business, but you just keep going. It sounds oversimplified and it sounds corny, but really do. If you have a skill set that people will pay you money for, you just keep going. And eventually you'll find ways to get more money and you'll be able to pay other people. And that's one of my favorite parts about this is I've got an awesome team of people, and this has given me a chance to give other people opportunities to, advance their careers and build skill sets and maybe go places they couldn't have gone without Greenville Cabinets. So I really like that part of this.
Yeah. I heard this analogy one time. It's very like one that kind of used a lot. Is just like going hiking through a mountain, going up and down. But I heard this analogy when it comes to like ups and downs and kind of pursuing life and your professional career. And that's like an ember with a fireplace. Like when you have the ember of the fire, it's like bright orange. It's on fire. You're catching, everything's going smooth.
Yeah.
It's just like on fire. Everything's clicking. As soon as you remove it, it starts going. It's losing that orange. It's kind of it's going to that black coal, and then you put it right back into the fire, reignite it. And that's life. That's a professional career. Is all about those hiking, going ups and downs, and then just that ember. Sometimes it's going to be bright, hot, red. Everything's clicking. Everything's you're growing.
Yeah.
Actually, and then there's a lot of times where you might feel that it's kind of hang out a little bit and whatnot. So as you reflect on some of those times in your life, like you mentioned 2008, like you mentioned in college, maybe not doing the best in school, And then
Yeah.
is at different times that you guys have had to adjust Greenville Cabinets, and you and your dad have had to adjust what you guys are doing and different opportunities. When you're looking at times of uncertainty where things are in that time when you're in a low period or your embers not really on fire, as you reflect on it, what are some of the things that kind of got you through those that can help you, like now that you know, like something happens next year where it might not look as promising,
Yeah.
what do you use now that you've experienced in the past to help you get through some of those low times as a business?
Yeah. Yeah. It's a really good question. I think one of the keys is figuring out what you're good at and sticking with that. I tend to always want to expand and look at different opportunities, and which is good. But you have to be willing to go, okay, things are tight right now. We're gonna rein in. We're just gonna accept that in this period we're not gonna make a lot of money. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna survive. And you know, these challenges that come along, they're opportunities. And you made a really good point that when that ember is hot and it's burning, yeah, it's easy to wake up at 5 a.m. It's easy to go bust ass. It's easy to go do what you need to do, when money's coming in and everything. However, have a year where you make $17,000 and keep that same energy, keep that same positivity, keep waking up in the morning, keep busting ass. That's tough to do. Now do it for 4 or 5 years in a row. That's tough to do. And unfortunately, a lot of people, a lot of people burn out somewhere in there. A lot of times I think the only thing that we're really good at was just not quitting. And like I said, it sounds so simple, but you keep going. You have to do it in a structured plan. You have to have things written out. That's a huge thing. Write things out. That's one of the things that gets you through those periods. Is then you can go back, you can look at your notebooks, you can look at your plans. Okay, it really sucks right now, but we accomplished this, and we accomplished this, and we accomplished this, and we're trending in the right direction. But at least for me, somebody with a better memory could probably do it, but I have to write that stuff down, or else it just gets all muddled, And then once you build a track record, to your point of the track record really helps, pandemic hit. My first thought, all right, this sucks. We survived recession. And when we survived the recession, we came out better, stronger. Hard times make people tougher, and hard times make companies tougher. And the recession made us tougher. It made us smarter. It made us willing to adapt. It was one of the things we had to completely scrap our original plan. So then when pandemic hit, it's like, all right, I've been here before. I mean, not here specifically, but we've had a crisis before, and it got really tight. After 15 years of work, there was times that I'm like, man, I don't know if we're gonna make it through this, but we made it through the recession, made it through the pandemic now, and what we're finding is a lot of your competition won't, and that's one thing that really, I'm competitive, and I understand that these crises are going to take people out of the game. And if you can stay in the game, when you get through it, even if you got no money and everything's in that show, you're still in a better spot because you got less competition. And yeah, that's one of the things that helps you get through it when the ember is not hot, is you can look back at when it was, or just focus on what you've got. There are days, I mean, you can get overly dramatic, but there were periods when there was almost no sleep, there was no money, I'd get up in the morning, I'd get in the shower, and I'd just start listing off, I'm grateful I'm alive. I'm grateful I can take this shower. I'm grateful I'm in a house. And you do that every morning, and eventually you're like, man, I got a lot to be grateful for. I mean, the fact of the matter is, if you're born in the United States and you live in a home, you're doing better than almost everybody, which, kind of sucks, but is something you should be grateful for. And so, yeah, just focus on what you've got, focus on what you can do, write it out, write out your plan, write out your to-do list, wake up and start doing your list. Do that every day. And eventually you look up and you go, well, I've got like a real business here. So yeah.
Yeah. No, honestly, that's beautiful because it's so important to remember where you've been. And so you exactly what you said, we're talking about, like, you went through the recession.
Yeah.
You and your dad went through that and learned from it, and you were able to apply what you learned from that to the 2020 pandemic. Obviously, it looks different, but a lot of the principles and adjustments that you had to do applied to that.
Yeah.
And I really like what you said when you finding what works best for you, when you had to write things down.
Yeah.
Just that reminds me of something, ironically enough, something that Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson preaches about all the time. The stuff he talks about, and that's the difference between motivation and discipline.
Yes.
A lot of people, especially when it comes to working hard in your business, whether it's business, life in general, whatever it is, a lot of people mistake that you have to find motivation. You have to find motivation. What's your motivation? What's your motivation? Well, as you said, I can easily get motivated for today.
Yeah.
Life can knock you down. Pandemic can come. As you were talking, you can wake up and some of the things that you were expecting your business to get in sales yesterday, you're not getting today. Your motivation's gone. You can't just, motivation is so wishy-washy, but discipline is something that you can count on. You can set what you do every single day. Exactly what you're saying, how you start your day off in the shower, writing down the things that, counting your blessings first and foremost, using that as a reminder, but then being able to be like, writing down all this, what can I do? What can I accomplish today that will make me better today than I was yesterday? And that's where discipline can really get you out of those tough times. I think that was so well said of you as you're kind of going through that with your journey. And the one thing I kind of wanted to touch on is a lot of what it sounds like Greenville has gone through in these changes and over time since back in 2008, or when you and your father started it, is when you guys hit a rocky road, you had to transition. Obviously, you said it started off as just kind of like, from what I heard, maybe more of like a handyman, or we'll start off as that distribution, then you guys transition to like a handyman service, and then you guys found that niche in custom furniture, and then you guys developed into kitchens and all this jazz. How have you, reflecting on that time, how has it helped you to kind of go through those transition periods? Like, what can you take away from when a rock's thrown your guys' way? And because a lot of those hard times does come transition. And as you mentioned before, when a lot of businesses go through tough times, if they don't transition, if they don't change, unfortunately, that's when some of them, they end up having to close down. And that's where a lot of businesses have to close down. What are some advice, or what are some of the lessons you learned that a lot of people could take away from when you do need to decide to change something up or find that transition point?
Yeah. If you can do it, one thing that was a weakness of ours for a while that I would kind of tell myself from 10 years ago is a lot of our change back in the day was reactive. It was, oh crap, let's figure something out. As that happens, you start to pay more attention to forecasting in your industry. Start actually listening to my financial advisors when they say, okay, we're looking at a year out, it's going to blah, blah, blah. And then, sales reps from your vendors, all these people are loaded with information. Pay attention to what they tell you, follow trends in your industries. If there's seminars, if there's things you can go to that are like this. In all honesty, I, for a long time, found those things kind of cheesy and kind of void, but I was an idiot. It's useful information and it helps your whole team. So once you start doing that, you can start to somewhat predict these things. And if you can be proactive in your change, it's a heck of a lot easier. And then it's actually an exciting thing. It feels like, oh, okay, we're getting the jump on this. Like we figured something out that other people might not have figured out. So, now we're gonna pivot this way and go down this road. And a lot of it also is attitude. Um, you know, trying to keep a positive, optimistic. Doesn't mean that you walk in, hey, everybody is one, like, no, it's just everybody crazy. But just your general mindset is this is gonna work out. We're gonna hit bumps along the road, but overall, we're gonna pull this thing off. This is gonna work out. And it's tough in the beginning, but the more that you do that, the easier it is to tell yourself that and believe that. And, as far as actual strategies and things, obviously it varies per industry, but you can follow some templates at a certain point where it's like, oh, okay, we need to figure out, a lower end product for rentals. The home sales are down, so that means rentals are going to go up. So now we need to do this. Instead of being like, oh no, home sales are down, what do we do? You've done this before. So, you follow the same transition template that you made last time. So yeah, if you can do your best to predict it, that's, I would tell somebody starting out, pay attention to that. You can be proactive in your transitions. It'll be a lot easier than trying to scramble after the fact. Obviously, sometimes you're just going to have to scramble. And that, I don't remember what it was, but sometimes I heard somebody said that sometimes in life you just have to sprint. And it's like, yeah, sometimes you just do. And that's also just kind of accepting, like, okay, this is one of those times. Changes is happening, so we're going to go about it with a good attitude and work as hard as we can at it. So, yeah, there's not, it's, you kind of just repeat the same stuff that I don't know if you know Jocko Willink is, but discipline equals freedom. He's a author and a business consultant person, podcaster. And yeah, the stuff really works. I mean, make a plan, write it down, be disciplined about following it, and see what happens. But yeah, be willing to change, be willing to adapt. But at the same time, don't lose sight of your core competencies. So there's a real dichotomy there that's okay. We focus on what you're good at, be good at what you're good at, but also be willing to transition. Maybe you make that same thing, but you sell it to a completely different market. It's that's what makes it interesting.
No, I love that idea of being able to be proactive instead of reactive. I'm a sports nerd and a sports buff, and whenever I think about that, I always think of like a running back. What distinguishes good running backs from great running backs is that ability to, as soon as they get their ball in their hands, they take a second and wait for the hole open, and then take off. They have that running vision. It's that same idea with business. It's like, do what you're good at, but then as soon as you see that opportunity, as soon as you see something that might blow your doors open, just jump on it, attack it, and run after it, and be proactive, be on top of it, and be kind of the leading charge. I think there can be a lot of beauty. And I think from what you were talking about in your story earlier, it sounds like you guys kind of had that light bulb moment when you guys started building relationships with builders and contractors. It sounded,
Yeah.
from what I was hearing, it sounded like that was a huge transition point to kind of take your current business to the next level, and have that referral base grow from Greenville to even the greater area of West Michigan. So could you maybe speak a little bit more into that, of the importance of not only your business, Greenville Cabinets, but maybe even other home service businesses, whether plumbers, electricians, roofers. I think this can be really applied to everybody about building relationships with other businesses. Could you explain what the importance of that would be?
Yeah, it's arguably the single most important thing in our success. And a lot of it just consistently do what you say you're going to do. We've all met this salesperson that can just, blow your socks off and everything. But when push comes to shove, it doesn't, nothing works. So we try and just be straight up with people. I don't give lead times that I hope I can hit. We give lead times we know we can hit. We build exactly what you want. If your designer sends us a design, our designer's not going to pick a fight over the design. We're just going to give you what you want. And then yeah, again, this all sounds really simple, but just be straightforward, be honest, be decent to people. Just, when things go wrong, and they will, don't freak out. Just call and have a conversation and go, okay, this happened. This and this is a possible solution. This and this is the timelines. How do we go forward from here? Just a matter of fact, let's solve this problem. So, yeah, a lot of the builder relationships started from people that we knew from working at various, like Woolland Lumber used to be a place that existed they worked at. So a lot of it just started from personal connections, but then, builders talk to each other. It is a big community. And yeah, we run into people at home shows. My favorite is, this just happened last week, is a builder just randomly got hired to install a project. Our cabinets just randomly around the project. He came in yesterday and was like, these cabinets are amazing. I want to work with you guys. Here's a print for my next build. I love that. So yeah, do what you say you're going to do. Be good at what you do. If you say we're going to deliver all of this, and then deliver all of that at the time you say you're going to do it. And if you can't, communicate that immediately. Everybody in the industry knows that things go wrong. And, quite frankly, if you're one of these people that freaks out every time something goes wrong, you're probably not going to do great in the residential construction industry. So if you know that something's going to be wrong, if something is back order, something's delayed, let the people know immediately. And that's tell it all and tell it fast. I learned that in high school marketing for PR, for bad news, but the same thing applies to builders. So yeah, there's not a lot of bells and whistles to it. Just be good at your job. Yeah.
Almost definitely. From day one, everybody will always say it's who you know. It's who you know.
Mhm.
And a lot of people can be blessed with people, knowing people, but also it comes down to, who you know, by building those relationships. Those got to start somewhere. And as you
Yeah.
said, a lot of it will start with just your local community, the people starting those referrals
Mhm.
until you get to the point where you start building those big relationships and nurturing those. They start getting big contracts through builders and contractors. There's such an importance there that I think you really touched on. The one thing that I realized we haven't even touched on yet that we kind of talked a little bit before the show is kind of the family business aspect of it. You and I, as I said from the start, both of us can relate. My dad started, or my grandpa technically actually started a board wall company, so they do basements and foundations in,
Mhm.
in East Michigan. And then my dad took over, and then now my two older brother currently working there as well. I was the youngest one, so I was the odd man out. I went somewhere else. So, but I've grown to appreciate that family business, and it sounds like
Yeah,
you can appreciate as well being able to do this and build this company up from the ground with your dad. But depending on who you talk to, depending on who it is and what their experience is, you'll get a mixed bag of people. Work with family, don't work with family. Work with family.
yeah.
I, I think it definitely boils down to there's pros and cons to it. There's pros and cons to it, and definitely depends on your relationship. So I just wanted to ask you, what has that experience been like being a Greenville Cabinet, being a family business, working with your dad, being able to build this relationship up? What have been some of those pros, and then what have been some of the things that you guys have had to work through as being so close with a father and son relationship?
For sure. I'd be curious to record my answers and then ask my dad the same thing, and compare the two. But like you said, pros and cons. But overall, I wouldn't trade it for the world. I am extremely grateful to be born into the family I was born into. You know, Obviously I'm biased, but from like a mechanical engineering, just aptitude for building things, I don't know I've ever met anyone like my dad. He truly has a gift in that regard. So it was just great to learn from him from a young age. And, I've never done a job interview. I always, now the flip side to that was he was going to give me the worst jobs available. He was going to push me harder than anybody. He was going to have a higher standard for me than the other guys. But, I had a father. A lot of guys, unfortunately, don't even get to grow up with a father, let alone one that can teach them a skill set, everything. So, yeah, there should be a higher expectation. And I think from the son standpoint, being able to understand that, he's not trying to be a jerk. He's trying to make you better. Now that I have two boys of my own, I get that a lot more now. You know, I, yeah, so it was a great opportunity. You are going to butt heads, if you're both kind of leadership personalities, you're both the type of people that, want to start a business and run with it. You both think you're right about pretty much everything. Yeah, you'll bump heads, but we've always done a good job of saying, okay, we're at work. This is our work relationship. Outside of work, we're father and son. That's a totally different relationship. We don't even talk about work much outside of work. Get together, family or whatever, work doesn't come up. Michigan, Ohio State just played. So, that kind of thing. Michigan. And yeah, and then, my mom came into it, 10 years ago. And yeah, it's difficult. It's difficult for the son to see your, parent as your coworker or as your boss or as something, because there's all of the parent feelings and attachment that comes with it. And same thing, from the parents. I imagine if you talk to a lot of sons of businesses and say it took forever for my father to view me as a grown man or, as something other than the boy he knew growing up. But that's awesome, just the way that it works. You have to be willing at the end of the day to sit down and have an intellectually honest conversation with each other. And you have to be willing at the end of the day to really look at yourself and say, hey, maybe I'm wrong on this, or maybe I'm right. And have that conversation, then have that conversation like 9,000 times. And yeah, I've never not worked with family, so I don't really have something to compare it to. But no, I like I said, I wouldn't trade it for the world. I'm extremely lucky to have the opportunity, and that comes with a responsibility. My father, I mean, like I said, they put up their payoff home. He was working a full-time job during the day, would come home and work all night to get the showroom warehouse ready. Did that for a long time, and that comes with responsibility of, hey, I can't be lazy. I can't be the one that screws this thing up. Maybe someday my kids will, but I'm not going to let this go down on my watch. So yeah, I like it. It's cool. I think family businesses are good. It's good for society. We're not necessarily trying to wrangle every penny we possibly can. We want to be a good company. We want to be a good company to work with. We want people to enjoy working here. I like trying to pay everybody the high end of the scale and want to keep that going. And I don't think you get that in places that are, I mean, you can, but those kind of values are less likely in a big corporate structure where it's just, pure efficiency and pure profit margins. And, obviously we like money, but at the end of the day, it's really not what this is actually about. This is about, hey, our family built something here and we want to see how well this thing can be run. We want to see how big it can get and then use that as a source of good to give people in our community opportunities, help out whenever we can. And I think if a lot of people did that, a lot of society's problems would get fixed. So, yeah.
No, most definitely. And it's a cliche, obviously, but most businesses in corporate offices, they have this idea of trying to create a family culture. And it's one thing, and I think a lot of them can accomplish it. But then when you actually have a family owned and operated
Yeah.
business, it's already rooted in the
Yeah.
business. And so I think that there's a beauty to being able to work alongside family. And as you said, there is going to be struggles with working alongside family, but being able to create that dynamic of like there's work, and we can have our work discussions here. And then when we're away from work, being able to enjoy our family time as well. As you're talking about, it sounds like very crucial to that relationship.
Yeah. No, I really think it is. You have to be willing to separate the two. So,
Yep, most definitely. The one thing I did also want to talk about before I let you go is the beautiful thing of having this recording in December is that we can take a moment, and we talked a lot about transitions and changes throughout this conversation. As you reflect on 2023, and I'm sure you guys are kind of in December, you guys are starting to
Mhm.
look forward to 2024 and do your annual planning and project what 2024 is going to look like. What is that insight looking like right now? As I said, as you look back into 2023, what are some of the things you guys are looking forward to, maybe getting ready for, or maybe you're or you're starting to expect as you guys plan for 2024?
Yeah. 2023 was challenging, but exciting. And the effect of the pandemic, for everybody else, kind of ended a year or two ago. For small businesses, that effect kept going in terms of cost of goods and cost of labor, and even still some difficulty getting things in. And everything just didn't quite run as smoothly. Vendors that used to be 100% consistent, now all of a sudden we're running a week behind, or just, difficulties that came about. So 2023 was difficult in that sense, but it was also uh, frustrating that it was exciting because some of that stuff started to get worked out. And it was about midway through this summer that it was like, hey, we're gonna come out of this thing, we're gonna be okay. And that was cool. And then it turned into, okay, well, if we're going to make it, then there's going to be more opportunities. So what can we come out with that'll potentially grab more of these opportunities? And, that's part of reaching out to you folks. And we're doing some marketing stuff where we've never done any marketing before, really. And we're actually like doing some ads and running some things, look at some different product lines. And then we had, I can't really talk about it, but like 2 days ago, something really cool happened that is something we've talked about from the beginning. And I really believe you make your own luck, and if you just consistently put out good work and good effort, an opportunity will walk in. And that happened a couple days ago, and really pumped about it. So a lot of efforts going into that. Yeah, 2024, obviously everybody, there's two wars and the election and but you can control what you can control. And I think it's going to be a great year for us. We're making the best product we've ever made. We've got the best team we've ever had. I love this team. Our cost of goods are in line. Our labor's in line. Our pricing is in line. It's the first time I could say that since 2020. It's a lot to be pumped about. And I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome. I was gonna say, if there's one thing, one takeaway from this podcast that people could learn from you is that it, you definitely should reflect on the experiences that you've gone through
Mhm.
so that you can plan accordingly. Because as you said, you can be in a good position. But as you said, 2024, there are two wars going on. There is an election, and even though those are things you think like, oh, how would that affect business? Like those types of things affect the economy.
Yep.
They affect the prices of goods. They affect timing and trades and whatnot.
Yes.
So that's why I think it's so important, as you've preached the whole podcast, about just reflecting on the times that you've gone through similar situations
Yeah.
and how you can plan accordingly to go through them again when they come around.
Yep.
So, Justin, I wanted to thank you today. It's been a great time getting to know you, getting to know your experiences, and I think a lot of people when they listen to this podcast can really learn through your experiences, really apply them to their own venture, their own businesses, and to help them grow as well. So thank you so much for joining
Oh,
me today.
thanks for having me, Mike. Real appreciate it.
No problem. If anybody else out there wants to do exactly what Justin and I did the past 40 minutes and have a discussion, be able to come on here and share your story, and have a conversation about what your professional venture has been and what those ups and downs. And so we can continue to build a community around this podcast. Always feel free to reach out. You can see the Valorous Circle link tree scrolling through at the bottom. Reach out to us, and we'd love to have you on for an episode of Digital Marketing Shop Talk. Until next time, we hope you have a great day.